Okay, welcome everyone to the Women's World of Backgammon's latest event with Roberto Litzenberger and Irina Litzenberger. And also, I just want to welcome tonight, we have two new board members who have joined the board of Women's World of Backgammon, and both of them happen to be here tonight, Melanie Hughes and Irina Litzenberger. So if you guys could wave so everybody can see you, we're so excited to have the extra voices and the extra input and some new ideas and muscle behind. So welcome to our board and welcome to everyone who's coming tonight. Karen is here, but having a little trouble with her video. So you can't see her, but she's here. Karen, do you want to introduce BMAB and why we've increased our participation in it and our support of it?
Well, we're very excited that Roberto and other BMAB directors in the U.S. have launched something called the Players' Cup. And this has cumulative points across about a dozen BMAB events in the U.S. And they will be giving an award to the winner, the player with the most wins at each of these events, but also an award that reflects the most points across the entire tour. Roberta can obviously tell us more about that, but we're very enthusiastic about it and eager to be supportive of it. So the Women's World of Backgammon has committed to also giving an award to the woman with the most points across the dozen BMAB events in the U.S. And it will be a crystal vase, a very nice indication of how this great accomplishment. And we're also giving crystal bowls to 4 BMAB events in Atlanta, which was won by our colleague Irina Litzenberger, at the Cherry Blossom, which was won recently by Linda Clay. And we will also be giving crystal bowls to the woman with the most wins at the BMAB in Michigan in July and in Denver in October. But I'm sure Roberta can fill us in more with the purpose of this initiative.
But this evening, it's all about reviewing the BMAB event that you just had. And Roberto, congratulations on the huge turnout. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And we're going to start going through a couple of what Roberto thought might be interesting things that came up during play so we can all learn and grow. But Roberto, do you just want to introduce the increased reason for the BMAB? One of the reasons from my perspective that Women's World of Backgammon wants to support the BMAB is you get to sort of compete against yourself all year. So you get to see your own personal growth because it assesses every match that you play during the tournament, and you actually get the information of what your PR was and what, so you know whether you're playing up to par or whether the opponent was just lucky, which seems to happen all the time around me. I don't know. So we love the BMAB because we're all about getting better as you go through the backgammon world. And the BMAB gives you a great opportunity to do it. So Roberto, take it away, and we look forward to your input and some of the exciting things that came up in the last time.
Okay, great, awesome. I'm actually glad to be here. Hi to everyone. So this is going to be pretty much a summary of the Players' Cup BMAB that was held in Atlanta. We'll be doing a couple of others at different times. It's kind of a mix of both the women's participation and the event in general. And when I do it, I'll be explaining a little bit at times about what Players' Cup Backgammon is. I do agree, Christine, that what you said is originally when these BMAB events came out, they're like individual events that happen in different places. They went after at first to get people to do it, these top grandmaster type people to start getting these ratings. And the feeling was at first that only these grandmasters do this kind of thing. And it was really hard for, intermediate level players or people that weren't going to get like a top designation to start doing it, but little by participation. And I must say that both Karen and Irina started participating at the very beginning of this, that people would started stepping in and said, "Oh, this person can do it, I can do this." And lots of people participated, and now you have a big range of people from novice to grandmasters that all kind of play together. And it really is not about who just plays the best, but as you said, people compete against themselves. They do one event, they see how they did, they'll do another one. You do get all your results back. You get to see all your results and how the other person did. You can see the video of the results and so forth. And you get to keep playing whether you win or lose. So let's do a quick rundown here. In Atlanta, 2024, that's Atlanta. When I do this, I cannot see the
Roberto,
website.
Roberto, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you speak a little closer to the microphone? I think we're having a little bit of black play, and I want to make sure the recording goes well.
Okay, I'll speak a little closer to the microphone. Can you
That's
guys hear
better.
me okay?
That's better.
Okay. That's our logo. There's 24 participants in Atlanta, 6 women, 5 rounds, 9-point matches. This is, as a plug, this is the Players Cup Backgammon website where there's all the kind of news and summary, the results and stats. It's playerscupbackgammon.com. As you can see, here's the updates from, you can see Atlanta, Ohio, and the cherry blossom up there. You also have the standings. These are the current standings of the top 10 of where people stand. Albert Stegg tied with Linda for first place in the cherry blossom, and he also tied for second in New York, so he's top of the list. And we have our own Irina Litzenberger, and I know Marty Storr is present as well. And there's Linda Clay from her win. The points here are derived from a tiny bit from participation, basically 1 point per match played. And then there's 5 points per match won. If it's a 9-point matches, if they're 11-point matches, it would be 6 points per match won. And then there's also ranking points. If you're within the top 8 of the field, there'll be ranking points distributed by a certain formula, which is on the Players Cup site. But this is kind of, this is consistently updated after each event. Okay, one participant this last time was Kate Elmore. Kate did get a master's certificate, advanced certificate here. Does it say that on the bottom? I cannot see the bottom of the screen when I do this. Can you all see what her certificate is?
Maybe you can remove it from there.
As the advanced 2 title.
Yeah, advanced 2, correct. That's what she got. That's the line which is blocked for me to see when I do this presentation. She got her advanced 2 title. Again, this from BMAB titles. This is generally how it works. Advanced 2 means that she's averaged under, as you can see there, an 8.5 PR over 100 experience points. I did want to point out, and I'll be mentioning, every woman that participated achieved something or did something during this event, which was kind of exciting in Atlanta. So I'm not just highlighting because they're women, but because they all did kind of get these different titles or did something related. You can see there's Super Grandmaster 1, 2, 3. There are no Super Grandmaster 1s. It's just kind of the system's built up to have that. As of now in the world, there are 2 Super Grandmasters. You have Mochi, which is Grandmaster, Super Grandmaster 2, and Dirk, which is Super Grandmaster 3. But that's that BMAB titles. Okay, here's position 1. This is from the match of Irina with Kate from round 1. It's a double anchor position or a butting back game. I like to use double anchor myself to say it because you're not always committed to a back game per se. It was a cue position. Irina?
Okay. It's hard for me to remember what I was thinking at the time. But I knew already, I don't know why I doubled this, but I know that when my opponent has 2 anchor, I should not double. and I need to wait until my checkers are ready to be clear, maybe. And I know this is not a double, but it's hard for me to think. Maybe because she was in the bar, and I see a lot of like priming opportunities, but this was a big blunder for me.
Wait, let's go through now. Irina, you're brown, right?
Yeah, I'm on the bottom here, and Kate has the ace point and the 3-point, and I decided to double. And she did not get scared and took, and it was a big blunder for me. So
Wait, did you think she wouldn't take it?
maybe I have a good structure, and I know I don't know why I doubled this. I mean, now in perspective, I don't think I thought she wouldn't take, because she's she's a good player. It was my mistake. She took, and I don't remember the result of this game, but
Well, I have a question for you, both Christine or any other kind of beginner, intermediate player that might be watching, is on this kind of position, what's your general feel? If you're, you're brown here.
you're white. Or
Well,
as
if
a
you're
double.
brown as a double,
Ah,
if you're
as a
brown,
double. Okay.
or as white if you're defending. I mean, what do you feel if you got doubled, or, would you want to double this if you were black?
I think for me, the question would be, do they have the timing for this back game? And, 77 pips is probably borderline. Yes, they have the timing for it, would be my concern with doubling. If they had a much lower pip difference, then maybe we could. That would just be my first thought.
When Zizi talks to me about doubling, he said the first thing I should ask myself is what can happen with the next roll. And is it possible in the next roll that I can eviscerate my competition? And if I can eviscerate my competition in the next roll, if I can really make sure that, if that's possible, then it's a good consideration for it. But am I too far forward, and what does their board look like, which is very important? Are they going to be able to start pounding me to close me in? He would have me asking all those kinds of questions before I made that decision. So I think, I don't think I would have thought to do it here, but it's also because, unlike Irina, I'm probably not good enough to be able to say before every roll, should I be doubling? But I'd really love to understand what made you do it.
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's very different when you see, once you transcribe the match, than when you're sitting playing. I don't remember how was the progression, but maybe like I escaped my last checker, and therefore I thought, I had a double, and it was a big mistake.
Here is the position. This shows the wins and the gammons in this position. Quite a lot of gammons for black, but a lot of wins for white. A lot of turnaround potential for white in this case. So still in this situation is a big no double. Can you go on and say when you would double this now? Would you know?
I
in this
think
kind of
double
situation?
anchor games, I double when I have 3 points that I need to clear on front of the anchor. That's what I'm thinking is when I can double.
And Melanie had a good point before, also saying if the person is primed and is gonna bust and run out of timing, would
Yeah,
be another time.
if white rolls big and runs out of time earlier, then I can double. They crack their board, I can double.
Yeah.
So those are the things I can consider.
Okay. Okay, I'll move on to the next one here. Okay, Samara Hayden was also participating. Samara also got a title. Her title is If someone else can read what that is, because it's blocked for me.
Intermediate 2?
Yeah, she achieved intermediate 2. Samara's participated in several different BMAB events. She doesn't do BMAB individual applications, so this is probably her 3rd or 4th event, so she had enough experience, to get the title or the proficiency level. Okay, this is a holding game type position. This is one where Karen Davis was playing against Samara. Double ones. Karen, can you work us through your thinking and what you know about this position, please?
And a DM just came in. Can you define what a holding game is?
So I have the 3-point made. So any type of anchor, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 7, could qualify as a holding game. I'm obviously losing. I'm obviously behind in the race. I'm 31 pips behind as Brown in the race. But usually with holding games, I can get a chance at a shot. And she's very stripped in this position. So she's nearly all of the points that she has have 2 checkers on them. Anyway, the question was what to do with these double ones. And I moved from the 22 point to the 23 point. So I advanced my anchor. And obviously my thinking was that way I'll be 6 away from her points on the 15 point, and it'll make it harder for her to clear points. She doesn't have much flexibility. On the other hand, we know that when we're behind in the race, we should stay further back. So that argues for just staying on the 22 point and doing something like moving from the 18 to the 16 point. And in fact, that was the right play. And instead, I moved from the 22 to the 21 and then moved up a little bit from the 18 to the 17 point. So the principle of staying back when you're behind in the race, and also there's a gap in front of that 22 point, a gap on the 21 point, makes it hard for her to come in. I actually make it easier for her in some ways to clear by moving up.
Yeah, exactly. Great points, Karen. I think you nailed it in saying that in this situation, you want to, for maximum contact, stay further back. I'm also noticing now that when you do step up to the 16, you still have connectivity between your checkers on the 22 point and the 16 point. So there is connectivity between your checkers still. Yeah, and that was, here's kind of the XG explanation on what's right and what's wrong. And good that you could recognize, what you did and knowing why you did one thing. Of course, in backend, what we see, we learn lots of little tips at different times to say, oh, you're supposed to do this, or you're supposed to do that. And often they overlap. So there's lots of conflicting things all the time. So it's good to be able to weigh that stuff out. Did the person who asked what the holding game was get a sufficient answer, or do they want more explanation on what a holding game is? I don't know. I can't hear anything, so we'll move on.
Move on.
And we can answer it after. Okay, Marianne Bowen was also playing. Marianne won the unlucky dice at the Players' Cup event. So one kind of neat incentive that we have during these Players' Cup BMAB events is the person who Extreme Gammon deems as the unluckiest over all the matches receives their entry fee back for the event. And there's Marianne with it's always this kind of lukewarm happiness. And just to sum up, it's not a position per se, but I got a position here that kind of sums up some of the luck that will seem to be routine for Marianne from one of the matches. Here's Marianne rolling right along against Melanie here. Marianne just has to bring this home. And what did she roll? Well, 6-1. She had to leave the shot, and then Melanie, boom, got the hitter and lift, and that was part of part of Marianne's unlucky, part of her what do you say, unlucky odyssey throughout the event, where she won the unlucky dice. Okay, there's Irina. There she was playing. Irina actually ended up going 4-1 in this event. She tied for the top. These were the people on all the wins that went 4-1. It was actually quite exciting that going into the last round, well, 2 rounds before, I guess there was several people that were 3-0, but it was random until the last round. So going into the last round, there's only one person that was 4-0, and that was Sammy Wool. And Irina was playing Sammy, and so everyone was kind of rooting for her. So there'd be one big tie for first place. And that's indeed what happened here. In the final, Irina beat Sammy. And so it was a big tie at 4-1. So each of them got 1/6 of an Iron Star. An Iron Star is another modality of the Players' Cup backgammon that if somebody wins an event outright by themselves, they get 1 full Legacy Iron Star, which is like a lifetime achievement. If they get a piece of first place, that's split between all the people that split first place. So there's no overall winner, but Sammy did have the chance to win the full Legacy Iron Star in that event. Win with the most wins, as Karen mentioned earlier, win one of these great cups. The one that says the BMAB Players Cup, that's what they win for the different event. And Irina did get this one for Atlanta, and Linda got one most recently now in Cherry Blossom. And the other one on the right is the cup that the woman that goes the farthest and all the BMAB points, Players Cup BMAB points for the year will receive. Okay. This is a prime versus prime position. This was against Kate. And Irina, you had a 6-3 to play from here.
That was another of my big blunders. I thought I could make the 2 point and win moving forward, and that is a big blunder. I open the 3 point and the 4 point are open, and I learned the right play is to slot the 4 point, and yep. Don't know what.
So yeah, the right play here is actually slotting here, going 13-4 and fighting a prime with a prime. The attack play that you mentioned, I don't have the picture here, but I get the attack play that Irina did was the play which was 8-2-5-2. But it just makes it too easy for white to jump in and then kind of hop out and keep attacking checkers as well that way.
Often when a game is undoubled, I guess I'm afraid of like not knowing what to do if I see a cube on the next roll. So I think maybe like putting my opponent on the bar will stop the cube, and let's see if next turn I get a lucky roll and I can pull it off. And because this is like not looking good for me, so I feel like I need to attack to have a chance.
That's a good point. We often do things to do one thing to stop something else from happening here, stop something else from happening. It's hard to say what other people would have done since we kind of know the answer, but what do you think? Is anyone else? See other ideas,
Question?
other questions on this?
I know you'll show us the different choices, but my instinct would have been to bring two down, one to the 7, one to the 10. And I wouldn't have thought about slotting the front of the prime. It's funny, I wouldn't have hesitated to slot the back of the prime, but even if she had a direct shot at it, so
Yeah.
it's an
Right.
interesting play.
Yeah, the 2 down play that you mentioned is the second best play here, and it's fairly, fairly close. Fairly close. Yeah, there's a best play. It's interesting to see the wins that, Irina, you're afraid of being cubed no matter what happens, but by attacking, it's basically a 50-50 game. And by slotting the front of the prime there, you're still winning,
Yeah.
a little bit more. I mean, it is really hard in backgammon, several positions. We get used to seeing positions that are right around when it's right to double, when it's right to take. Positions that are close to 50-50, sometimes it's hard to see really which one's better. And other ones that I have a hard time seeing is when there's very little win chances, when you're down to around 10 or 12% win chances, really picking out which is the best one subtly is also hard at times. But here, the only one where you're a clear favorite.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any questions on that one before we move on? Okay. Karen Davis. There's Karen on the front of primetime. And Karen had the best PR in the event for the best woman had the PR. She had a 5.75 PR altogether. And here we can see as a summary. I have this blocked by all the people here that I'm looking at.
Change it. Yeah.
I can't get to where I change it. I can't
Yeah,
see my.
there you can talk.
I can't get to the toggle.
Mm.
So I can't read the different lines. We can see that Karen was right up there. Dee Dee outperformed everyone, and Karen was 4th overall, fairly close to Avi Cohen and KG. You can see Karen has a lifetime Masters 2 titles. That's awesome. Okay, position 4. So 1 checker back position. And so this, let me explain it here, kind of lead up to what's going on. I wanted to leave Karen on the bottom, but this is cube action now. George Keller is doubling Karen now. So white is doubling and black is deciding on whether or not to take or pass. Karen, before you speak, does anyone have ideas on this position?
We have a question, a DM question. Are there specific rules for 1 checker back that you could lay out before discussing this particular situation?
Yes, I'll talk about it after when we get to the decision. I'll mention kind of one of the rules, a rule of thumb that I use. And if anyone else has rules of thumb for these, they can also do it after the analysis. But what does anyone else think before Karen? Because Karen knows what you did and she's going to talk about it. But any other, ideas? Should white even double? Should black take?
So the rule of thumb that I use in long races like this is to take if I'm 10% plus 3, 10% plus 2 behind. I double if I'm 10% minus 3 ahead. So my opponent, George, has 125 pips. 10% of that is 12.5. I add to that, I get 14.5. I could take, if it were just a no contact race. And I think I did take this, but what I didn't take into account is that there's still contact And my checker way back on the 24 point is a liability. Not really an asset. So there's also a chance that my opponent can make the 5 point, then the 4 point, then the 3 point. All of a sudden, I'm really trapped back there. So it's not a straight race, and being 10% behind, and I should have dropped and taken into account the fact that the contact was favoring him, and I needed the score to be closer to justify a take.
Great points, Karen. Sure enough, you can see right here that it was, was kind of, this position was a clear pass. Now this can lead us to what that other question was, and Karen, you mentioned several of the reasons as of why. In a straight race, this can be a take. Does contact favor, black or not? The wins are about the same. Maybe they're even 1% higher than if it was a straight race. But you see those things, the gammons start inching in there. This really becomes a pass because you're not winning that much, and gammons play against you a lot. In a straight race, you don't lose gammons. So here, in a position that's essentially, contact neutral, or maybe even on the win side, slightly favors, that Karen is going to win ever so slightly more games because of the contact than she would in a straight race. But the gammons are much higher than they would be in a straight race. And Karen, I love the point of speaking of assets or liabilities, because I think in that same way. And in this case, one checker back is generally not an asset. It's a liability because of the gammons more than it's an asset. So the rule of thumb that someone asked on when to take is generally one checker back, you have to be better than you would take in a normal race.
So that means with two checkers in this situation, having 2 checkers back will be better.
If you
Or-
had 2 checkers back as like an anchor,
Yeah.
yes. If it-
Enough to take.
Yes, it would be a clear take, holding game take if another checker back and you had an anchor.
Okay.
This is not, positions aren't as strong as a holding game, and holding game gammons will tend to be lower. So the rule of thumb in taking is you can't be as bad as, you have to be better than you would in a normal race to take one checker back. How much will depend on the circumstances, but, good rule of thumb is somewhere, halfway, in between an even pip count and being down to your basic race take. So somewhere, 6, 7 pips would still be reasonable here to take this kind of position. Okay, Melanie played. There's Melanie showing off an awesome woman of backgammon board here, this picture. Very nice.
And
Well-
it's interesting that she got her advanced 3 title this year.
Good. Yeah, that's what I couldn't see from here. So I was looking for the next slide and popped around. But yeah, she got the advanced 3 title at that event the same way. She hadn't done an individual application, but she participated in several events, both in New York, Atlanta, and I think Atlanta the year before, and that put her over enough experience to get her title. So good job. KG played against several women in the event. And here's a 2-2 play here for Melanie.
Yep. And I looked at this and thought, wouldn't it be nice to unstack that big chunky stack on the 13 and make the 9 points? And of course, looking at this, we've got one checker on the bar and a checker on the 5 point and a better board. And so really the best move was to come around and hit on the 5, putting 2 checkers up, and you know, and that stops Kent from making the 5 point. And if I get hit, well, he's only got a 2-point board, so it's not the end of the world. And so it was a much better move to come around and hit on the 5. But I missed it.
Yeah, there's illustrating the correct play there, just kind of whacking on the 5 point. And here we see the moves. Interesting enough, when you break these numbers down, again, it gets down to, you know, the gammons and the score. In this position, your original play, Melanie, at 13-9 with 2, would have been the best play if you were just trying to win the game. So if this was double match point, if it was tied at 8-8, 13-9 would be the best play, it looks like. I mean, you'd have to run it at that particular score because there might be subtlety to change it. But from here, it's looking, you win 68.5% of the games that way. Slightly less when you hit, but it's a perfect time. This is a attack game right now. They have 1 on the bar. You're attacking. You have a deep point, but I already have the deuce point, and so attacking is your game plan. You do not want the other player to come in and make that advanced anchor and just kind of be stuck in a holding game. Your equity with attacking is better than that, as shown by with the 13-5 play, 28% gammons. That's very juicy. You know, take advantage of that. Go for the aggressive win. So this is indeed an attacking, you know, attacking blitz type game. Was kind of the right game plan choice, so to speak, in this position.
Yeah.
Okay, this one here is also Melanie. This is you, also against KG, and also double twos.
Yes. So so what I was thinking about with this position was I'd like to make my 4, the 4 point, and give myself a lovely little 6 prime there. And I wanted to stay back for maximum contact on the 22. So I played 8-4, 6-4, and then 5-3. The only thing I wasn't thinking of, though, that really wasn't the maximum contact play. A better play was to do 8-4, 6-4, and then to split from the 22 to 22-20, which would give me, you know, many more points of contact at the, you know, on my opponent's side of the board. And I shouldn't really be afraid of splitting because he has a 1-point board and a block there. So that was by far the better play, but I didn't see it over the water.
Yeah, awesome. Because this is you can say here, there's the right play. Doing this. Now what's kind of neat about this play is at this score, I like calling this kind of situation is you're better than a holding game.
Yeah.
You're better in this case for 2 reasons. You mentioned maximizing contact, but you're also not that bad in the race. I mean, if this turns into a racing game, you're in a good position too. So
yes.
This is kind of a duel, and this instills fear in people. Unless white rolls a perfect number not to leave a shot somehow, they're very afraid of your board right here and just kind of hitting loose. If they try to clear the checker in the back, you're absolutely right. You have better contact. Now you have 2 different numbers you can attack if they leave a blot on their midpoint. If you come back with a racing number, you know, you can run and race as well. So I kind of denominate these kind of situations when you're better than a holding game. You didn't need to stay back in the anchor and do it. And here you can see that, you know, staying back, pretty large mistake there. And you're actually a small favorite after making the, you know, making the top play of splitting and making the board. You're ever so slight favorite of winning this one. So in order to be that slight favorite, you can tell there's lots of different win chances. You have
Yeah.
contact and you have race. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions on this one? Anyone want to add any points to this?
Yeah. I just want to say that you have to, if you're going to make the best move, you have to see it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I was playing too conservatively. I think I hadn't thought about, you know, your instinct is to keep that anchor, and that, you know, your instincts are not always correct. And Marty, to your point, which is, you know, you have to be prepared to kind of to break some of the rules that you have in your head in order to make the right play.
I find it a difficult position. Marty, maybe it's obvious to you, but you know, either moving up because the race is close and then you're guarding the outfield, and starting the 4 point. But moving up with 1, and you think you're vulnerable, you know, you don't realize you've got a huge board advantage and they've got a blot, so they don't dare hit you with anything less than a perfect number, like, I don't know, maybe double twos. But even that doesn't cover the blot. So
Yeah, the whole thing is that you're covering the opposing outfield much better this way, so that if Kent tries to break his midpoint, you know, you're going to get several more shots. Let's say he rolls, I don't know, a 6-1 or something, right? So if he doesn't want to leave any blots, he has to either break a 7 point or go 8-1, leaving more blots out there in his board, I mean, and or break the midpoint and leave some indirect shots. Now, suppose he brings 2 off as a midpoint. Well, you've got any 7, which is 6 numbers, and you got a 6-3, which is 8 numbers. That's 22% of all the numbers. Versus, you know, if you're back on with 2 on the 22 point, you know, you only have 2 numbers to hit versus 8, so you quadruple your hitting numbers in certain variations where, you know, and you actually force him to leave a direct shot if he rolls a 5-3. Just because you're covering more outfield territory with that forward checker.
Oh, yeah. Direct shot there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can see it now, but I agree with Karen. I think I would have, if it's hard to split the back anchor, I think I would have moved both to the 20 as well, maybe. Like I can see myself doing that, but splitting, it's a hard play, Melanie.
Well, in this, you're going
It's easy,
best of both
it's easy
worlds.
when you can see it with hindsight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here it's maintaining contact and the race. And what I like best is instilling fear in your opponent with that strong board. I mean, they're just, that's always a good thing, to instill fear. Okay, position 7. This is Samra. I believe, Karen, this was you against Samra. Karen's playing a 3-1. And who wouldn't just make the 5 point here?
you know, it definitely jumps out at you. You're gonna, if you make the 5 point, which we all know, we hope for this 3-1 all the way through the game. Finally, we got it. We got a 5 point board. If she doesn't get a 6, we can either get a lucky shot in the outfield or hit her loose. But now is, she could get the 6, so now is the time, it turns out, to hit her loose and move up with the 24 to the 21. I think the thing that makes the hit on the 1 right, which I didn't see and didn't do, are these outfield blots. It must certainly increase your chances of a gammon. If you hit on the one, she doesn't hit back or she doesn't come in, then you can leap out off of the 20 or the 21 and go attack those blots out there on the 12 and the 10. So again, a play where the obvious play of making the 3-1 wasn't right. And the importance of, even though, you know, I'm safely ahead in the race now, and by hitting a blot, I risk getting hit back and having losing my racing advantage. It must have payoffs in terms of those vulnerable blocks in the outfield. I don't know whether hitting with the one would be right if for example the checkers were stacked on the mid instead of separated out there.
That's something to look at after, but in this position, I quickly explored what this looks like here. You know, looks, you know, fairly solid, but we'll see from this kind of attacking blitz setup. Here are the results, and it's a few more wins and, you know, a handful more gammons. You're winning lots of gammons either way. So clearly,
Quite a few more gammons, yeah.
yeah, it's one of these positions where it's a kind of a really good number either way, and which way you're really maximizing it out. I'd be interested to hear if other people participating, what they would have kind of done both instinctively, or if they would have stopped themselves short for making the 5-point. Kit or Marty, you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I would have hit because I see that, you know, Samra is poised to do something good, either clean up blots or make an interboard point or just escape.
Look,
And
look
it's
at
harder for her to do anything like that. She's on the bar, and I've got such a bigger board than she does. You know, and I can stand to be hit. If I get hit, I'm still, you know, I'm still winning the race. I still have attacking chances. I might do something like jump out to the outfield with one checker and then see if she can, you know, and try to get some more contact.
one real easy way to look at this. Walk over to the other side of the board and put yourself in Samra's shoes and answer the question real honestly. Which play are you rooting for your opponent not to make? Now, if you look at it that way, the right play is going to jump out at you because you're saying, please, please don't hit me. Please, please don't put me on the bar while I've got these 2 outfield blots that I need to clean up.
Yeah, before you have any point in your board or anything, you want something before you're hit for sure. Good point, Kit. Because clearly, if you make this play, now White gets to roll. Look at all the good things White can do this turn. Clean up blots, make a point, escape.
But it is kind of, anytime we see a 3-1 and the 5-point is not made, it's so tempting.
Yeah.
It's like we're programmed to do it.
They say when in doubt, make the 5. Well, not always, but you know, most of the time, I guess.
Well, I encourage
when in
everyone
doubt, whack them out.
Yeah.
Okay, there you
Yeah,
go.
there you go. Yeah. I encourage everyone to have a folder I do of positions of, you know.
There's going to be
when
another
not to make the
Woolsey
5-point.
law out of that. When in doubt, whack.
Yeah.
Always hit.
Oh, yeah, always hit, always make the 5-point, always do everything. Okay, and there you go. You can see it here. We looked at that already.
Yeah.
Okay, position 8. This was an Irina position. I thought this was
Compare and contrast.
compare and contrast a little bit here of what's going on. Now, instead of not having a board, there's a position that your opponent does have a board. So what to do?
Well, not what I did. You need to hit also, and probably again I was anticipating what to do if I'm double. I'm like behind a 5'. I didn't see that hitting was the right play. Now I can see that, you know, if I hit back, my opponent is back on the 24 point, and that's good. I just did not see it.
So again, here the right play was hitting. If you didn't hit, that's the other position, what it would look like if you don't hit. And again, here it is. Hitting's the only play that makes you a slight favorite in this position. The other play, why it seems safer, just isn't safer. I mean, in this case, does anyone want to add anything on this position?
I'm gonna add that still is a difficult thing to do, and it's hard to see it.
Once again, look at it from your opponent's point of view. Which play gives your opponent more good rolls? If you hit,
True,
all your
and the
opponent
fact-
has, all your opponent has is aces. If he rolls a 4, so what? If you don't hit,
Yeah.
any entrance is very good for your opponent.
And also, like, if my opponent dances, I can still pick up the other blots, and I can still jump with 6s, and I can cover.
If your opponent hits back, you're going to be in big trouble. But
Yeah.
so what? You know, you just assume that won't happen.
Now, will
Yeah,
my
you're in
opponent,
big trouble. You're in
will
big
my
trouble if
opponent
you
double?
don't hit as well. And
So
how
if
are you
my
going to win this game,
doubles,
right?
what
You
do
have to
you
ask yourself, how are you going to win it? You got a spare checker in your 3-point. You got a gap in your prime. You're really going to try to play a priming game? You know, you want them helpless. You want them on the bar for as long as possible.
Yeah, and to answer your question, Edina, yes, if they double, they cannot double. We saw these equities here, we saw these numbers, and if you don't hit, they're, you know, if you hit, they're only winning less than half the time, so you
Yeah,
actually
I
want them to
know, but
double.
it's just, you know, when you're behind a 5', 2 checkers in the 24 is not that, for me, however, is not easy to automatically take.
Yeah, but they
But
also
you
have
can
two on
also
the
you can
roof.
survive a hit if you come right away with a 1.
So my
You know?
opponent's gammons are high also. So that's the thing in this
Yeah.
position. They're both players have high.
This is a
gammons.
classic action game, so each person has the glass half empty, each person has the glass half full. It's just to make sure that you see it that way and not be in, you know, not, you can't be overly optimistic
Yeah.
if you feel that you're the aggressor. Yes, you have 2 checkers behind the 5', but they have 2 checkers on the bar.
Yeah, but comparing to the previous position where the opponent didn't have any a good board, it was easier for me to try to see that in the future. This is still, it's intimidating.
I'd be scared not to hit.
Good perspective there.
Yeah.
Okay, position 9. Here we have, this is the position cube action, I believe. And I have a whole thing blocked. This is Julius against who? This is Melanie?
Yeah.
Is this black on roll here?
Yeah.
Black's-
Yeah, with Julius playing me, and
Black's ahead 6-2.
yeah, and I looked at this and you know, got a better board. I have escaped one of my back checkers. He's got one on the bar, made my 5 point, all's looking good. And I didn't really think as carefully as I should about the score, and I threw the cube.
Score is such a big detriment to doubling this sort of position.
Yeah.
So here, if you look at this position from score change, boom, 0-0.
Oh, it'd be an instant double and probably a pass. I would guess.
Well, here's a normal score. This is if it's a normal score here.
It's
We
a
have
small.
nice
It is a small
solid
take.
double, solid take, kind of right in the middle of the doubling window. Clearly, Melanie, this is kind of what you saw in this case, in this situation, which is good aggressive thinking, but score is, oh, but so important. Back to original position. Boom. Huge mistake to
Massive
double.
blunder. Yeah.
Huge mistake.
The whole point is this: when you're considering doubling in these sorts of positions, what you're looking for is market losers and how big are the market losers. Now, at this score, let's say you make your 4 point and he flunks. You know, let's give you're the best possible scenario. Have you lost your market at this score? Can you say confidently, yes, I've just lost my market by a mile?
Nope.
I can't say that. And if you can't lose your market by a mile, what's the point of doubling?
Yep. Yep. I was not mindful of the score when I threw the cube.
Yeah, takeaway, 3 away, many away. And I define many away as, 7 away or more. When there's significant contact, if you're not sure, by significant contact, I mean, it's still these kind of middle game type positions. Significant contact, generally, unless you're an expert, you don't really have to worry about doubling when it's 3 away, many away. You can just kind of let it go and wait until it gets to more familiar, tight, easy holding game or a race before you consider doubling. Your wins generally have to be above around 75% to double. I mean, there are exceptions if there's kind of these huge amounts of gammons, but the window's very small, really small window. Do you know the windows? I like to say, have you ever been to forts, like where people shoot arrows out of forts? Those really tiny arrow windows? That's about how big the window is at 3 away, many away.
A good guideline for this sort of decision is, at this score, if you have a man back, one or more men back, it's probably not right to double, period. If you've escaped everybody, then it may well be right to double. Yep. This just seems to work.
Okay, good points. Let's go here. Position 10. Karen, double 4s.
Wow. Claim.
Karen?
So, I wound up doing a cube place, so I noticed that I could take a checker from the 18 all the way to the 2 and hit putting 4 on the bar. But obviously, anytime you get doubles in a situation like this, you need to consider the switch. That is to say, moving my checkers from the 6 point to the 2 point. So the neat thing about that, I like to say I've pre-cleared my 6 point. So while she's scrambling to get 4 checkers in on the 6, I'm scrambling just to move my outfield checkers around and in to the 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. And obviously she's got more work to do than I do. Even if, she rolls the horror number of double 6s, I've got a 5 point board and I'm pretty close to getting my checkers around. So clearly the right play is the switching play. I don't know that I am good about general rules for when you shouldn't switch. Certainly, if it's a long game, not this, but say switching with double twos or double ones or something, double threes, it's kind of destroying your board and you've got a long way to go and they've got one or two checkers to get in and they can regroup and you regret it. But in this situation, obviously switching and then either, as indicated, coming from the 18 to the 10 or even doing two checkers from the 18 to the 14. It's not bad, about the same. So, and look how close the gammons are. If I do that point versus just hitting loose on the 2.
Yeah, you're
Not
gaining.
Not only
extra
that,
damage.
your winning chances go way up also. The point is, the way you lose this game is if your opponent makes an anchor on your 2-point.
Yep.
That's almost the only way you can lose, barring a freak.
Yeah,
And
and for
and the
reason-
switching play guarantees they'll never do that.
Though they won't.
yeah, I just think it's important for kind of intermediate and beginner players, everyone to kind of get switching really in the kind of, so to speak, vocabulary of plays that are out there as well. It's always something you should look at. Of course, there's rules. It's not always right, especially sometimes if you're really primed or something and really can't carry on a full blitz or something. It may be incorrect at times. But it's good to always kind of be aware of this, that checkers aren't glued down and you can break your 6-point and 5-point and switch it to lower points at times. Yeah, nothing's glued down. But good points. Now I do have another position or two if we have time. I don't know what our time limit is or our schedule that I have here. Someone else can tell me that. If no one stops me, I'll just move on to another position. Okay, position 11.
I think this needs to be the last one, though. I think we are getting close to time.
Okay. You are position 11. Can everyone else see whose this is here? Oh, this was Melanie as well. Melanie played Julius. And normal score, cube action here.
Okay, so I cubed this, and I cubed it because I had 10 in the zone. I had a better board. I'd split my back checkers. My opponent didn't have an anchor, and I felt this was strong enough for me to throw the cube.
Anyone else have any other opinions?
Well, it's certainly a take. Let's start with that. So the only issue is, do you have enough in the way of market losers to justify doubling? And at the table, I'd probably double it. If I were wrong, so what? I'm winning the game. How bad can doubling be?
Yeah.
Wouldn't shock me if it were theoretically wrong, but I wouldn't care.
Nice aggressive cube. I think the rule out will show that it's probably more of a double, but this is right on the line.
Oh, just
on the line of a
just
early
as
double.
thought.
Yeah,
But this position, by the way, is a good reference position to have in mind, because this sort of thing, this sort of situation in various formations where you have a solid advantage and a few big threats, but your opponent has a trivial take, comes up all the time. And it's usually right to double on with these.
Yeah.
That was great.
Good points. Well, I want to thank everyone everyone for participating. I especially want to thank Karen, Irina, Melanie for kind of laying out there to expose. It takes, a big person to really confront blunders and mistakes that you make in public and to talk about them. So I'm really happy to see y'all do that. And enjoyed it. And thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roberto. That was great. It was really well done.
Roberto,
you.
I can't tell you how wonderful it is to have these specific examples that we can carry away. What a great program. Thank you so much. And remember that this is a great program. If you want to try out tournaments, it's a great thing to do to go into the BMAB and just sign up for that. It's over in an afternoon and you'll get a lot of feedback afterward.
Yes, I'll add my thanks to Roberto. I think my main takeaway from this session is just how important it is to have your matches recorded and go over your mistakes. It's key to your improvement to know what kind of mistakes you're making and how to prevent them in the future. Even sitting down with a buddy afterwards to go through your errors and talk them through should help you improve your game. So thank you, Roberto, for giving us the courage to reveal our mistakes and talk about them in public. But it really is the way to get better. So thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Take care. Yep.